When you think about getting a kid ready for school, your mind probably jumps straight to ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, right? But what if I told you that the single most important ingredient for success in the classroom isn't academic at all? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the unseen foundation that makes all other learning possible.
So let's ask that question again. What really is the starting block for a child's entire educational journey? For ages, we've been focused on the cognitive stuff, reading, counting. But the research is pointing to something much, much deeper, something that actually powers the whole engine of learning. All right, so here's our roadmap. We'll start by looking at why emotions are so tied to learning. Then we'll break down the three big pillars of social emotional growth, and we'll look at the principles educators use to actually build these skills. We'll even see how the classroom layout itself plays a huge role. And then we're going to get super practical with tools for handling conflict and see how families can keep the momentum going at home. Okay, first up, learning's emotional engine. I love this idea because it gets right to the point. We're talking about the undeniable, surprising link between how a child feels and how that same child thinks. These are not two separate processes happening in the brain. They are one deeply connected system. This quote right here, it just flips the whole script. I mean, think about that for a second. The biggest roadblocks for young learners often have nothing to do with academics. It's not about whether they know the alphabet. It's about struggling with things like curiosity, self-confidence, or managing their big feelings. That's a huge shift in how we look at learning. And this isn't just a nice, fluffy idea. This is pure neurobiology. Our brains are not neatly organized into little boxes. The parts that handle memory and learning are physically wired to the parts that process emotion. So what does that mean? It means when a child is feeling stressed or unsafe, their brain is physically less able to learn. Emotional well-being isn't just a bonus, it's the price of admission. Okay, so if these skills are that important, what exactly are they? What are we talking about when we say social emotional development? Well, that brings us to the three core pillars that really hold the whole thing up. First, you've got the self. This is a child's inner world, right? Understanding who they are, learning to manage those big emotions, and starting to feel empathy for others. Second, we have social interaction. That's all about how they engage with the people and the world around them. And third, relationships. This is the big one. It's the ability to form those secure, trusting bonds that make us all feel safe. These three pillars all work together, building that solid foundation we've been talking about. Now, here's the crucial part. A child doesn't just wake up one morning with a fully formed sense of self-control. It's just like learning to read or ride a bike. These skills have to be taught, they have to be modeled, and they have to be practiced over and over again. And that requires a really deliberate, really intentional approach from all the adults in their lives. And this slide shows us exactly how the pros do it. Educators are intentional. They use play, which is, the natural language of childhood, as the main way to learn. They model empathy and respect themselves. And they act as a sort of feelings narrator, giving kids the actual words for their emotions. Saying things like, I can see you're feeling really frustrated that your tower fell down. They coach and guide kids through challenges instead of just swooping in with the answer. But it goes even deeper than what a teacher says or does. The classroom itself is a powerful teacher. I mean, the physical space sends all these constant unspoken messages to kids about how to act and how to interact with each other. I mean, just look at the difference here. A supportive space has materials where kids can actually reach them, which fosters independence. It has cozy corners for when you need a quiet moment, and big open spaces for working together. And that predictable routine, it gives kids a sense of safety, which frees up all this mental energy so they can focus on learning and connecting, instead of worrying about what's going to happen next. Okay, so we've set the stage. Now let's get into the main event in pretty much any early childhood setting: conflict. This is where all those social emotional skills get put to the ultimate test. And honestly, it's where some of the most powerful learning happens. This chart is so fascinating because it shows that handling conflict is a developmental skill, just like learning to walk or talk. At the beginning, a child can really only see things from their own perspective, so we can't just expect them to share and play nice without any help. It's only with coaching that they gradually learn to see other points of view and eventually find solutions together. This is such a great guide for our own expectations. And right here, we see that coaching in action. The teacher doesn't punish or dismiss them. She gets right down on their level. She validates their feelings. You both look really upset. And then she helps frame the problem for them. She's not solving it for them. She's giving them the emotional scaffolding they need to start solving it themselves. This is just masterful teaching. Of course,
The classroom isn't an island. This incredibly important development has to continue at home. So for our final section, let's talk about how families can build a bridge and reinforce these exact same skills.
These are such simple but powerful strategies that any family can use. Sharing stories about when they were a baby helps build their sense of self. Asking, I wonder how that wolf is feeling while you're reading a story, that's building empathy. And creating a predictable goodbye ritual, that gives them that exact same sense of safety we talked about in the classroom. It's these small, everyday moments that become the real building blocks of social and emotional strength.
So we'll end with a question for you. After seeing just how critical these skills are and how they're built through these small, intentional actions, what's one little thing you can do this week? Maybe it's just narrating a feeling you see, or wondering about a character in a book, or making that goodbye routine just a little more special. Because it's those small, intentional acts that truly build the unseen foundation for a lifetime of learning.